Okay. Am I on? I hope I'm on. I'll tell you one of my worst fears just before I get up here isn't always preaching. It's preaching and having a snolly on my nose and I don't even know about it. I promise you, every single time I get up here, I try and look at myself on my phone. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I felt like I would let you guys in on that story. Not sure why, but it's one of my fears. Yeah, it is weird. It happens, eh? Once you get up here, it's real. And imagine being caught up here for half an hour. You're trying to preach the gospel, see people saved, and they just can't take their eyes off your nose. Sheesh. That would kill me. And I'm inviting you, if that ever happens, just warn me. Don't wait until half an hour. So one time I was driving home. And I don't know if you've ever driven down Murray Road behind a truck. And this guy, he was driving, it's a massive truck that had lots of logs in it and whatever, and classically he's driving very slow, and I'm late. I'm not the most patient driver in the world, I won't lie. Working on it, me and Jesus have been chatting about it recently, and this guy just won't get out the way, hey, and there's traffic on the other side, I can't pull an overtake maneuver, and I'm just getting grinded the more this guy's in front of me, and he's even driving badly. He won't let me past him. It's just a bad situation. So I get home, and I open the gate. But I think someone else saw me at the gate. The people that live with us there, and they also pushed the button. So I open it, and about at the halfway mark, they push the button. Now I have to close the gate and then open the gate again. This was after a long day at work and a long, silly, stupid truck. And then this happens, and then I go inside, and I'm just a little bit, irritable at this point, and the lock on my gate doesn't always work lacquer, so I'm just, fiddling with this thing, and it's just, Eventually I get it open, and I walk inside, and I go to the kitchen, and as I open the fridge, have you ever had one of those tomato sauce bottles that you're trying to get the last little bits out of? And it was about this much in the tip of it, and it was upside down, obviously, to get it out. And as I open the fridge, the tomato sauce bottle pops out and smashes on the floor. My heart drops as I see this happen. And I know that there are people with bigger problems than that, but that day just seemed horrible. So I continue, throughout this hectic day, and I'm eating supper, and lo and behold, there's a tomato on my plate. Now, that may not seem like a big deal to you, but it's a whole tomato, and it's a baby one. Now, I get irritated pretty quickly with small things, guys. And obviously, it's the whole day has just been like that, hey? And who's ever tried to stab a tomato? And it just flicks off the plate. I'm drained now, man. There's just no redemption because of this stupid tomato, I've had a hard day already, and this tomato just picked on the wrong guy at the wrong time. Now, Arabella's in the room, my little girl, and I'm trying to be a good dad and not lose my temper absolutely and start throwing things all over the show. So I very quietly go up and pick up my tomato. And as I try and put my tomato in my mouth, the worst thing ever happened. There was a hair on it. Yes, guys, I don't know about you guys, but a hair on food just gets me gagging straight away. I can eat offal and all of those things, and I can vaguely enjoy them. Chicken heads and feet, we good, but a hair. No, that's where I draw the line. I'm not game for that show, and so my evening ended there. I was totally drained. I put my supper down. I went for a shower just to cool off. So not a great day. There's this person in the Bible. I mean, her day was a little worse than mine. I'll tell you her story. But she had a pretty bad set of days, not just one. And I hope that throughout this story that I'm about to tell you, as we look at her daughter-in-law, and the trouble that they went through, and God being glorified through that trouble, my honest hope and my prayer for all of us tonight is that we would be able to learn something from the text. I'm going to read quite a bit of the Bible this evening, and that we would be able to see Jesus in this story, because all of these Old Testament stories are almost like a forecast of the perfect Christ that was to be. And so I hope that we can really see Jesus in everything here this evening. So I'll be preaching out of the book of Ruth. So if you want to go there, we'll be starting in chapter 1, and we'll go through the whole book. There's only 4 chapters, so don't be scared. And we're gonna see what Ruth and the gang go through here. So a small update on what's going on in the life of a family. There's a guy, his name is Elimelech. Okay, don't try and say that fast. And Elimelech has a wife. His wife's name is Naomi. There's a famine in the land that they're from, and so they go through to another land called Moab. They get to this land, and Elimelech dies, very unfortunately. They had gone there with 2 of their sons, whose name I'm not going to pronounce because I really want you to read the Bible. And so you can go ahead and read that. And so they go there with their sons. The dad dies, and the sons take for themselves a wife each. Their names are way easier, Orpah and Ruth. Hey? Why can't we all have easy names? And a while later, the 2 men die, and so there's Naomi, who's this widow, and then her 2 daughter-in-laws. Now they're together, and they've kind of lost everything. They've moved away from their homeland to another land to seek refuge. And then dad dies, and the son-in-law, the sons die, and husbands die, and whatever. And it's just a terrible situation. Hey? So these guys, these 3 ladies, up and start to go on their way back to their hometown, because they hear that at their hometown things are looking up, that they say that the Lord has blessed the land again, and that they can then go back home because there's nothing really in this foreign land. So the daughter-in-laws are coming along, and Naomi says to the daughter-in-laws, hey, listen, it's probably best that you guys stay, go back to your mother's home, because that is the best thing for you guys at this point. There's no point in coming over with me because you'll be a foreigner in my land, so it's better that you stay behind. And her prayer for them is that they would find husbands and have a family and whatever. After some time of just going over that thing, Orpah, one of the daughter-in-laws, goes back to Moab. But it says over here in Ruth chapter 1, at the end of verse 14, it says, but Ruth clung to her, that being Naomi. Ruth clung to Naomi. And right in the very beginning of the story, we see this tremendous loyalty that Ruth has for Naomi. And it's absolutely amazing to see a woman who will become a foreigner, a divorced foreigner in the land, but she sticks through with Naomi. I think it's an amazing picture of loyalty, of honor, and trust that that Ruth has in Naomi. And for me, as soon as I read that, I asked myself, how many times have I made a decision based on a popular way of thinking, based on a secular or earthly way of thinking? They can be big or small decisions, but how often have I, or conversely, how often have you made a decision based on a popular way of thinking, based on a worldly way of thinking, and done what Orpah did and just gone back to what she knew, to her mother's home? How many of us would cling to what will turn out to be, in hindsight, God's way of thinking about it? How many of us are trying to keep up with the Joneses, as it were? We are trying so hard to have the right car, the right house, search out the white picket fence, and we're not concentrating very often on what God has for us in a certain time. And Ruth here, despite her being divorced, despite her being a foreigner in the land she will go to, a people she does not know, she clings to Naomi in loyalty, understanding that this might turn out to be God's plan. And I think that that's more the way that we should be thinking about things. Now, Naomi, as you can quite imagine, when she goes back to her homeland in Bethlehem, she gets there and she's super unhappy. In fact, she even changes her name to Mara, and the name of that is bitter. So a whole bunch of people say, is this Naomi? And she's like, no, I'm not Naomi anymore. You can't even call me that anymore. Kind of like me on that day. and she's saying, no, my name is Mara. I'm just bitter. That's all that's in me. Now, Ruth, caught up in this situation, changes it, and she says to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean amongst the ears of grain. Now, for me, that is such a big deal, what she said there, because despite her being a foreigner, despite the situation that she finds herself in, despite the environment that seems to be going against her, against Naomi, she says to Naomi, please let me go and glean. Now, gleaning wasn't an amazing task. It was picking up after the people who were harvesting. Okay, so the people who were harvesting, they were servants, and they would be serving a master of some sort, a farmer, and they would go throughout the field and harvest everything, and anything that was sort of on the ground that was spare that they didn't pick up, other poor people would come in behind the harvesters and glean and pick up all of these things. It wasn't fancy what she was going to do, but she knew that she had to make a decision. She knew that she had to take a step of faith, and we'll see where that step of faith leads her. So many of us, when we are faced with a bad situation, and you can put whatever situation you're facing now or have faced in the past, when we're faced with that situation, we very often blame God. When everything is going well, we blame ourselves, don't we? Yes, you're such a boss. You know, you earned that money, you did this, you did that, and we're all about what we did. And as soon as something goes wrong, you're like, oh, God, how could you? You know? That's human nature. We're so quick to give ourselves the credit when it is bad, when it's good, but as soon as it's bad, then we say, no, God, that's totally your fault. How could you let this or that happen? Ruth, instead of blaming someone else, instead of saying, God, how could you take my husband? How could you take me away from my land, etc., etc.? She says, no. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go glean. And it's not a fancy job. It's nothing amazing, but I'm going to step out. I'm going to go and do something. And it says there that she goes out to get food and to find favor in the sight of a farmer's eyes. Okay, so she understands that she's going to go there, and she just trusts that someone is going to find favor, that she's going to find favor in someone, that there's going to be someone that will be generous. There's going to be someone that is going to do something. Many of us, and this is a young person thing I'll have you guys know, many of us, you know, straight out of varsity or straight out of school are aiming up there. Especially my generation. We expect that straight out of varsity, you're there. That's top management earning 50 grand, and if I'm not, I'm unhappy, and I'm not going to settle until I get that. And we don't understand this thing of starting off low, being faithful with the little, and then God will slowly but surely establish us over more and more and more. Now, Ruth understands this principle. She understands that I might be gleaning today, but in the future, I'm going to find favor, and God is going to bless me more and more. She's not like Naomi, who's bitter. She's not like many of us who are almost overqualifying ourselves and say, no, I'm too good for this, or I'm too good for that. She starts at the bottom, and you'll see she gets really, really far. Now, Ruth chapter 2 goes on, and this is where my main man, as I'm going to call him this evening, comes in. This guy is a boss, okay? It says here, Ruth chapter 2, now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a man of great wealth, of the family of Elimelech, battling with that one, whose name was, wait for it, Boaz. Yeah, that's a nice name. You wish you married a guy by the name of Boaz. I'm sorry that you didn't, for those of you who married. This guy's awesome. It comes in, and it says here, she happened, this is Ruth, she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz. That's cool. Who was in the family of Elimelech. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, may the Lord be with you. And they said, may the Lord bless you. Now this guy is a man of great wealth. He comes to survey his land to see what they've done. and he sort of walks by. It's like, hey, he's just that guy. When he walks in a room, he's the guy with the spotlights on him. He's that guy. He comes in and owns whatever situation that he's put in. This is Boaz Master, if you want to call him that. I've gotten quite close to him over the past while reading these texts. So Boaz comes in from Bethlehem. He greets all of his workers, and the first thing he says is, here we go, may the Lord be with you. You see, the first thing out of his mouth to people that are seemingly lower than him, his servants, is, may the Lord be with you. Young ladies who are not yet married, please, for the love of all that's good in this world, go after the man whose first words out of his mouth are always from Jesus, despite who's he talking to. I've seen young guys pitch up to pastors, and they operate up here when they're around the pastor. They're this, super holy Joe, this, their language goes from, English to Christianese. They all of a sudden start speaking about anointing and predestination. I've seen those guys. They're all about, what do you think about atonement, hey? And all those things. And I look at young guys like that, and I'm like, yammer. So you don't want to go after that guy, but you do want to go after the guy who knows who he is, who knows where he's going, but who speaks well of people even lower than himself. Ladies, if you are searching for a guy, I want you to see how he treats his mom and see how he treats the poor people, the widow and the orphaned. If he has got time for those people, if he speaks well of those people and to those people, then he is worth looking at. I'm not saying dating, that's going too far. But he's worth looking at, okay? If he is kind to those type of people, this is a man that you can look at, okay? That's the first one. You just look at him for now. We'll go over this thing and we'll get there, I promise. But for now, we're just looking at guys like this. We're not doing much more than that. It goes on, and Boaz, gets one of his servants over. It says here in the text, and he says, "Whose young woman is this?" He's pointing at Ruth. He says, "Whose young woman is this?" He notices her. But watch where he notices her and what she looks like when she's noticed. She's not dressed up and dolled up. She doesn't have them eyebrows, perfect. She doesn't have the eyelashes, this thing, that thing, lips all done, wearing the top and the pants, I don't know, whatever you guys wear nowadays. Those silly long T-shirts that look like dresses. I don't get them, but I mean, go for it, guys. And skinny jeans as well. Holler at me, skinny jeans crew. So you don't have to be all like that. You see, Boaz is, we'll call him the guy. Boaz is the guy. Notice that the guy recognizes Ruth when she's dirty and working. Not when she's, standing at the synagogue, twirling her hair, looking all lacquer, hair done, everything all perfect. She's working. The guy will see you when you step out and you work. That's when the guy sees you. I tell you, the guys that, waited outside the synagogue for the cherries, they were not goodos. They were not goodos. Okay, I'll just leave it there, I'll let history speak of the rest. He found her working, and it's this thing of being found where God has called you to. Ladies, be found where God has called you to. I'll tell you where not to be found. Please don't be found on WhatsApp. As a practical thing. If a guy finds you on WhatsApp and not face to face, you best believe that is not worth your time. WhatsApp. Come on, not even a message. You're so cheap, you can't even message you. Come on, man. It's not, don't be found on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, whatever it is. Don't be found in these social media things. Those are not places to be found, ladies. Be found in the place that God has called you to, and you best believe God hasn't called you to Instagram. He can use it as a tool, but you best believe that's not where you're called. You're called to be working in His kingdom for His purpose in His ways. That's what you're called for. I'll tell you where I saw Tash for the first time. I'm married to Tash. She was the lady that was on the screens just a little while ago, doing church news. I found her worshiping. That's where I saw her for the first time. She was leading worship at our Eston site. We used to have a site out in Eston Way. I was a fresh Destiny teamer. And I'm sitting in the Quantum, and there's a girl behind me. I don't want to look, obviously, because then I look like I'm needy or something. So I just, that's not cool. So I kept, face forward. Let's do this thing. And I get out the combi, and she gets out with her. It was either a guitar, something like that. I don't know. And she sets up, and I'm the sound engineer. I'm terrible, guys. I'm not a sound engineer. I didn't even know where to plug things in. I was new on Destiny team, had no idea what to do anyway. So I'm just like fumbling through these things, trying out, this. The band is getting irritated with me because I'm just not getting it right. Eventually, an old dude comes in and helps me. Thank you for the old dude. I don't know what his name was. Because I was looking at Tash. Okay, it's not that he wasn't important. I was looking at Tash, and all of a sudden, I'm captivated by her, and it's because she's doing that which God has called her to. She's worshiping and leading the congregation in worship. You see, that's where I saw her for the first time. That's where she captivated my imagination right then and there. And I would say to all you ladies, be found doing what God wants you to do in God's timing as well. Those are really important things. Ruth 2 from 6 and 7, from verse 6 and 7. So Boaz calls this guy over. The servant in charge of the reapers replied, because he's just asked, where's she from? And he says, she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. Thus she came and remained from the morning until now. From the morning until now. For me, that is a massive representation of hard work. She's not sitting around doing nothing. She is working really, really hard. Now, Boaz goes ahead because this guy, he's the guy. And Boaz tells her to stay in his field with his servants and that she can drink his water. What a generous oath. Now, you see, when we choose to honor God, when we choose to work hard, and this is for guys and girls, old and young, when we choose to honor God in where He's called us to take the simple, small steps of faith, then God, most often, He provides a way. Now, Boaz then says this to her. Now, Ruth has gone into quite a lengthy paragraph here. It says this, then Boaz said to Ruth, listen carefully, do not go and glean from any other field. Furthermore, do not go from this one, but stay here with my maids. Let your eyes be on this field. And indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you. And he says all the stuff about drinking from his water. Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your sight that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? Since I am a foreigner. Boaz replies to her, all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me, and how you left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. May the Lord reward your work and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. You see, Boaz recognizes immediately where her providence comes from. He is the God that's providing for her in terms of her daily bread. But even in that, Boaz, a man of God, says, this is God's doing, not mine. May the Lord reward your work, it says in verse 12, and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel. Listen to this, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. Boaz understands that at this point in time, even though he looks like he's the direct person that might be providing, he understands that in actual fact, it is God. This is the kind of husband you want to be, men. Now, I'm not professing to be the most amazing husband. In fact, I'm learning. I just found out recently that doing dishes for your wife on a constant basis is actually beneficial. Those old guys around here are saying like, duh. I'm like, ish. Learned this recently. I'm a youngo. Only been married 3 and a bit years. Just, I actually didn't realize how lacquer life would be. Just wash a couple of dishes. Guys, if you don't wash dishes, please, man. Just go ahead and do that. That's for free, eh? I was giving this advice. I'm just batting it off here. Youngos, wash the dishes. Trust me. So this is the husband you want to be, providing and comforting, but under the authority of God. We're providing, we're doing all those good things, but we're giving glory to God. This is the kind of man that you want to be, and for the ladies, this is the man you want to get. It's a man who acts righteously as often as possible, and yet always gives the glory to God. If a guy is out there and he keeps on telling you what he's done, that there is called drive. Drive is not good. Being called is good. If I have to tell you what I've done the whole time, it just highlights my insecurity and my need for affirmation rather than highlighting the glory and the grace of the God who let me do it. That's the kind of guy you're looking out for. If the guy that you're pursuing, or that's pursuing you, should I say, is always pointing to his accolades, is always pointing to his trophies, at this point, he is not mature enough to look after someone else. I see all these girls, man. I mean, I'm involved in youth ministry and Uptown and so on. I see these young girls, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. They say, oh, he loves me. Ah, really? He doesn't love you. He can't even make his bed in the mornings. His mom packs him lunch. I mean, really? You're going to go after a guy whose mum packs him lunch? Really? Yeah. No, man, stop it. Really. I mean, if I had to get every dad on stage right now who agrees with me, I promise you, this audience will be empty. They will be like, yes, yes. I'm tempted to do that. I won't, though. Yeah. So a man should act righteously and then give the glory to God every single time. Act righteously, give the glory to God. Boaz, he's this guy. You guys got to go after Boaz. Boaz then treats Ruth to a meal. And then listen here. After that meal, Ruth goes back to glean. You might think, okay, that's cool. No. Listen up. You see, very often, I've seen this as well. A guy, comes to a girl, says, I love you. She's in. Just like that. Oh, my word. I'm like, what? Or she sees him at the swimming pool, takes off his shirt, 6-pack. Boo. And she's like, now that's a man. And all I'm saying is that he hasn't proven himself. All he's proved is that his rugby coach is harsh on him. That's about it. That's all he's done. Hasn't proved anything else. Got a good rugby coach. Go and shake the rugby coach's hand. Well done, coach. Made him look good. He doesn't have that discipline by himself. Sheesh. You see, Ruth at this point doesn't lose sight of the goal just because Boaz has been nice to her. I mean, this is the guy. But even though he's the guy and he's been real nice to her, she doesn't all of a sudden, sit back and say, well, yeah, I want you. She is absolutely in this place of, I have a goal in mind. I was gleaning for my mother-in-law, and I'm still gleaning for my mother-in-law. That's what I was doing. I don't stop all of a sudden now that, Mr. Dreamy comes along, The guy tells you that he loves you. And all of a sudden you're like, yes. And you drop everything else. Your marks at school go down, or, varsity or work, you're just twirling your hair and your boss is like, what's going on? It's him. It's him. I mean, I've heard that before. Don't act innocent here, man. Don't you dare. Don't you dare act innocent. You've done that. We've all done that. So Ruth goes back, to what she was doing before she met Boaz, the man. And Boaz takes one of his servants one side. He says to his servant, let her glean among the sheaves and even purposefully put out grain for her. You see, Boaz isn't looking for shortcuts as he pursues Ruth. He isn't watching her with lust in his eyes or his heart. He isn't trying to get in her pants, if I might say it like that. He isn't trying to do that. This guy doesn't want anything in return. He just is providing for her, and he's getting other people to do that with her and for her and with him. It's this amazing picture of a guy who knows what he wants, but he knows the righteous way of getting it, and so he does it that way. Most of us, I put myself in this bracket, don't understand the process. We don't understand that it's best to pursue from a short distance through prayer, through generosity, etc., and then you dive in when Jesus says yes. We're all about shortcutting the process, not letting Ruth get on with gleaning, because we don't understand that God very often has a journey that He's taking people on. He's got a way that He is trying to take people through that's going to develop certain character traits in them that are one day going to be good for marriage, that are going to be good for life, that are going to be good for ministry. And very often we try and shortcut those processes. We try and take God out of the mix. I think this is an amazing exhibit of patience on Boaz's half. We have to understand and we have to trust that God has got each and every single one of us on a journey. And in this thing of pursuing women, being pursued by a guy in this series that we're covering on Sunday evenings, we have to exhibit patience, and we have to understand that every person is on a journey, and we need to let them go on that journey in their personal world. Very often we want to shortcut even their journeys in their personal worlds once we're married. Sometimes I feel like Tash just doesn't get something. I feel like she probably thinks that more of me and should be right. But sometimes I feel like she just doesn't get it. But what I need to understand, most of the time I'm wrong, but every now and again I'm right. But when I am right, I need to understand that God has got her on a journey towards something greater. And if I try and shortcut that process, all I bring is pain. That's all I bring. I've done that fairly often. I'm what is considered, I think when I went through marriage counseling, a rhino. That doesn't speak of my intelligence, and it's probably right. And Tash is what is considered in marriage counseling and all that vibe a tortoise. And so for the first while, I rhinoed it out. And Goldstone tried his level best at taming the rhino. But I had to run into very many brick walls before I understood that I have to sit down and listen. That is patience. It's the understanding, like Boaz had of Ruth, that there is a journey that someone needs to go on, and I need to let them go on that journey. And I need to, like Boaz did, I need to provide around the sides. I need to let them go do their thing whilst I do my best at making sure that I'm setting Tash up. And in my other relationships, in my friendships, I understand that the people I'm discipling, the people that I'm friends with, they all have a journey, and I'm to gather around them, as it were, and to set them up for success as often as possible. My goal as a leader is to make a whole bunch of leaders that are better at leading than I am. My goal as a leader is to father people so that they can be fathers. That's my goal. It's to set other people up for success. My goal as a leader, and it should be for all of us, that where I end becomes a flaw for the next person. I'm not asking people to relearn things. This is the understanding of a journey, and this is what Boaz does. And this is in many relationships, we don't exhibit this. Husbands and wives very often don't exhibit this. And I would put my hand up for that as well. I would say that I don't always understand this principle of the journey. And I very often try and shortcut these things. We see also that there's a massive feel for generosity in Boaz's heart. And I want you to ask yourself, as a married man or woman, or even as a single mom or single dad, whatever it is that you are you generous to people around you? Are you really generous? Or do you, for the most part, just take away from people? Now, most of the time, when I say the word generosity, most of us think I'm going to, call for tithes and offerings. I'm really not going to do that. See those churches. So I don't want to do that at all. But generosity, it does mean finances, but it means, am I generous with my time, my energy, and my finances? Am I generous with those things? Am I generous in my relationship with Tash with my time? Am I generous with my energy? Am I generous with my finance? Am I, even though I might not be earning $1 million salary, am I generous towards her? Am I able to sacrifice something that might be nice for me to be generous towards her? Am I able to, at any one moment, drop whatever I'm doing to make sure that she has the time? And you best believe that I have not done this very well. And I too am in a learning process. But generosity is a massive key. And a big thing in generosity is not doing it for return. I don't be generous with Tash so that I can get something out of her. I'm just generous with Tash. Because when God was generous with me, He didn't say, Darren, now you need to do A, B, and C. He said, I will give you everything you need for life and godliness. I will give you all the gifts for free. My mercy is new for you every single day. And you just have to be you. And I'll work on you as you go on the journey. There's no rules. He puts me in a position where I want to be better. Not I have to be better. He puts me in a position where I'm not following the rules. I just want to be better. I want to glorify Him more with my life. No rules. I just desire those things. I remember when Tash told me the way she used to be living in her testimony, and then the way she started living after Jesus really encountered her in a new way. And there was this thing of, she used to do a lot of partying. And she never said, I'm just going to stop partying. It was as she fell more and more in love with Jesus Christ, she just partied less and less and less until it became nothing to her. It wasn't all of a sudden she wanted, there wasn't anyone at church here saying, hey Tash, you can't do this and you better do that and this and that, because that's legalism and that leads so many people away from the local church. Because she fell in love with Jesus, she wanted to be better, and those things just fell away. She does like dancing at parties now, though. She's very good. I'm not good at all. So the rest of the barley and grain season happens, and then then it comes to an end, and the whole time we see that Boaz is providing and getting in there, and then Naomi brings out the fact that actually Boaz is what is considered a kinsman redeemer, like a family redeemer. And this means that he could purchase their land and legally marry Ruth and redeem the family's name, as well as bring honor to the husbands who died. That was what a redeemer would do. There are a few other things that they would do, but those are the real big things that a redeemer would do. So Naomi tells Ruth, hey, this guy that you dig is actually a big deal, and that wealth that he has can get us out of this, and his love for you and generosity. And there's a massive conversation. I just know, ladies, that would have been bigger than what they put it in the scriptures. That would have been like a massive conversation. And so Naomi gives Ruth advice on how to go about making herself seem or be more pursued by Boaz. And then here's the thing, Ruth listens to her. How many young people, and old people I suppose, but young people don't listen? Okay? I also used to be one of those people. Mom and dad speak, I say, yeah. And then I go this way. Mom and dad speak, I say, yes, no, definitely, and then Darren's going this way. Mom and dad speak, and I say, yes, and Darren goes this way. That was a constant in my life, and I realized that that's really just not wise at all. And so now I try my best to listen to older people, and there's a massive value in that. There's a massive value in listening first. I heard this statement the other day. God gave you a mouth that closes and ears that don't. There's a point to that. I think I was with Keith when he read that out to me, and I was just like, yeah. When you feel rebuked by those little bless them cards that you take out of that thing that you put on your fridge. I just read that, and I was like, wow, felt rebuked. A mouth that closes and ears that don't. So be found in the counsel of wise people. Always, young people, be found in the counsel of wise people. Now, Ruth then goes about doing what Naomi told her to do, and she comes and sleeps at Boaz's feet in the night. That was super attractive back then, and you best believe not after she pulls the cover off his feet. Okay, that was the closing deal, and so she pulls the cover over his feet and sleeps there. And he wakes up and he's like, whoa, what are you doing here? And she then, confesses, and there's this whole thing. And Boaz, he intends to redeem her and the family. But then he says, and this is from him, he says, there is another man who is closer to you who should redeem you. You see, Boaz fears the Lord. He doesn't shortcut even that process. He could have redeemed her, had the girl. It would have been an amazing story, tick that box. But he says, no, actually, in terms of the way the law is put out, there is a man who is closer to you. The next day he goes out, and this man walks past, and he tells that man, come here. And in a council of a bunch of wise men, leaders in the community, he tells this other man, I don't know if you knew, but there's this family, Naomi and Ruth and whatever, and you need to redeem them. You need to redeem that family. And this guy says yes. And then Boaz follows up with, and you'll have to take Ruth as your wife. And this man says no. Yes and no. I don't know what his intentions were or the struggle behind that for him, but he first says yes, and then he says, actually, I actually can't. So then Boaz goes and takes Ruth as his wife, redeems the family name, redeems honor to those that died beforehand. It's an amazing story, but that comes out of fear of the Lord. He knows the Lord. He knows that the Lord is to be feared. Now, guys, this is very, very important. The fear of the Lord being the beginning of knowledge. This fear is massive. You see, when you fear the Lord in your marriage, in your friendships, you might have an argument, and you might think you're right. The fear of the Lord humbles you and afterwards makes you say sorry. If you do not fear the Lord, you do not go afterwards and apologize. Ladies, single people, if the person that you are pursuing does not fear the Lord with awe and reverence, they are really not worth your time. They are really not worth your time. And if you are out there and you feel like you're in a position where the fear of the Lord is not in you, you do not understand the greatness of God the Father. You do not understand the mercy of His Son. And you are not in a good position. You need to change yourself around. Before you go to your husband, before you go to your wife, you take a chill pill. You go and read the Bible. You honestly go to Jesus Christ. You say, Lord, I do not understand how big you are. I'm having all these problems in my marriage. This and this and this. And very often we'll play the blame game, don't we? Only cowards play the blame game. Real men fear the Lord. Say sorry first. And prophesy perfection over their wives until they see it. That's not lying. It's not faking it till you make it. It's prophesying perfection, just as Solomon does over a woman who doesn't think she's beautiful. He says, you are the finest in the land. He prophesies perfection until he sees it. That comes from fearing the Lord. Now, in all this story, I look at this story and time again, as I've read through the book many times, I just see the absolute redeeming grace of Jesus Christ coming through this story. You see, because Boaz in this story, he redeems Ruth, and when he sees her, she's dirty. When Jesus saw you and I, we were dead in our transgressions, not merely dirty, we were dead, not knowing anything. Jesus comes into that situation and redeems us. Just like Boaz did with Ruth. He waited patiently for Ruth. Jesus, despite our sin, despite all these things, he waits patiently for us as we walk a journey either towards or against him. Jesus is so patient, and I think you and I can attest to the patience of Jesus Christ as he leads us and guides us. He fulfills the law on our behalf so that we no longer need to. He's generous to us when we do nothing for him. You see, Jesus is yours and mine greatest Redeemer. When I read the Old Testament, I know that the Old Testament, everything in the Old Testament points towards Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Everything after that points backwards to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Because Jesus' life, death, and resurrection actually happened. It's real. And it's a saving grace that you and I need. I'd love it if the band could come up. And if you guys could stand with me. And I'd love to pray with you guys. I feel like many of us in here need to make a couple of changes. As you've seen how Boaz treated Ruth, you see how in your own marriage, in your own friendships, in your own relationships, there might be a change that you can make. Even as I read this myself, I looked at my marriage, I looked at the way I treat my friends, I looked at the way I treat my family, I looked at the way I treat those around me, and I found myself wanting. I found myself in a place of desperate need of Jesus Christ. Just because at some stage I was saved doesn't mean the gospel doesn't mean everything to me today as it did back then. The gospel, friends, is not something that you move past. It's not something that you get over. It's something that I daily preach to myself because the saving grace of Jesus Christ is what made me what I am today. In my marriage, when things aren't going well, I look at myself and I say, Darren, you haven't preached the gospel to yourself yet. You haven't preached the gospel to yourself, and so you're argumentative, you're stubborn, you're this, you're that, because the gospel doesn't mean enough to you today. The fear of the Lord is not your strength today like it should be today. You don't understand that His mercy is new for you today. And so you argue, and so you think that your way is the only way that works. Men, the only way our wives will be happy, and I can promise you this, the only way she's happy is not with finances, although it's cool. It's not with all of these other things. My wife is happy when my relationship with Jesus Christ is at its best. When I look at Jesus and say, Jesus, I'm in need of you. Not just I want you, I'm in desperate need of you. I can't go on without you. I can't keep messing up like this because I'm not with you. I need you every single day. Men, that is the only way your wife gets happy. That is the only way. Ladies, your husbands, you can serve, you can do all of these amazing things, but if you are not on par with where Jesus has got for you, if you're not following in His ways, if you're not looking towards Him saying, God, would you be with me as I try my best to be the best wife for my husband? So many of us are looking to self-help books, to YouTube clips of motivation, to all of these other secondary things that may help on a surface level as behavior modification, but don't ever deal with the heart. We need to deal with the heart. The heart is the thing that we have to take towards Jesus and say, Jesus, will you help me with this thing? There will be many, many people in the room right now who say, actually, that's me. Actually, I need to work on these things with Jesus. I'm a stubborn man. If you're a stubborn man, bow your knee to Jesus Christ. You're not impressing anyone by being stubborn. You're not impressing anyone by being macho or being chauvinistic. A real man bends his knee in reverence to a God that made him. That's what a real man is. I feel like there are men here who for possibly decades have acted in a certain way that would not glorify Jesus Christ, that would not represent what Boaz was representing here, that are not sacrificial in their understanding of what love means. You bow your knee to Jesus tonight. You stop that nonsense. You look towards your Savior. If that's you, I want you to be bold. I don't want you to come to the front. You take a knee where you're at. You level with Jesus tonight. You say, Lord, I love my wife far too much to be that man again. And I want to pray with you. That's a bold step. That's not the one you came for Sunday evening for, was it? I encourage you to do that. There might be another group of people here who, as I've been talking about this, to this day have never felt pursued by Jesus Christ. But now that I say this, actually, like, maybe He is pursuing me. Maybe He is what Boaz was to Ruth. That's what Jesus is to me. If that's you, I'd love to be able to pray with you. I want to introduce you to my Savior. The God who made me new. The God who I owe everything to. I want to introduce you to that God. So whilst all of our eyes are closed, those two groups of people, I want you to take your action. If you're here and you're saying, I want to meet Jesus Christ for the first time, I want you to chuck your hand up in the air. I'm not going to call you to the front, but I want you to make a bold step. If you're here and you need to bow your knee to a superior authority, I encourage you to do so. As I bow my knee to a superior authority, I want you to do the same thing. And I want to pray for each and every single one of you. Lord Jesus, I remain merely a man in desperate need of you, Lord. For those of us who need to be better husbands, better fathers, better friends, better wives, whatever the case is, Lord, I ask that you would help us. Give us the courage we need to humble ourselves and bow our knee towards you here this evening. Lord, thank you for the work that you're doing deep inside of our hearts. And I ask that you would create inside of us a love for your word. That as we read your word, we'd be convicted of stuff in our lives that isn't righteous. That we'd be able to change for your glory. Lord, for those single people who time and time again have sought out the wrong person, have fallen for the wrong girl, the wrong guy, at the wrong time, ask that you would, this evening, put a maturity on every single one of us that are asking for it, that are humble enough to say, Lord, I need you. Lord, thank you for absolutely everything you have given us. I know, Lord, that your grace is abounding, that your love is so reckless, that you would save a wretch like me is absolutely amazing. I count it my biggest privilege, my most amazing honor to be called a son. And Lord Jesus, I pray that you would help all of us do the same. Create in us a thankful heart this evening. And as all of us go home, and as this week comes out, as we pray and read the book of Ruth, that you would help us to move from one glory to the next.